In today's episode, I have 10 beautiful fall crafts to share with all of you. All right, now let's get crafting. I found these apples on Amazon. I'll link them down below my description box, but today I'm going to be using these smaller ones, this bucket, this foam square, some boxwood, and some shish kebab sticks. Start by taking your foam square and cutting it down in half. And then I'm going to just shove that down in there and glue it into place with some E6000 and hot glue. And then the other half of that foam square, I'm going to cut it down a little bit in size, and then I'm going to start to shape and round the top so that we can turn this little bucket into an apple bush. I thought this would be so cute for the fall. So go ahead and add some more hot glue and E6000 so it really bonds on there well. And then I'm going to start working on my apples. Go ahead and take your shish kebab sticks, poke them into the apple, and try not to let them go flying off like that one just did. And then you're going to go and glue in the stick at the bottom of the apple so it doesn't pop off over time. And then you're going to just sporadically place them all over this foam square until you get them to the liking that you see and desire. Now I'm going to take some hot glue and I'm going to add in some of this moss down inside the bucket at the base. I thought that this would look really cute as if you'd see it in your own garden. And now I'm going to take my boxwood and I'm going to cut them down so that I can place them into all of these holes that I pushed into my foam square. This is going to allow you to be able to get all of those boxwoods in there and glue them into place. And the more sprigs of this boxwood that you add, the more it really starts to transform into this little apple bush, which I think is so fun, and it's really easy to create this look. Cost me hardly anything and I love it. Now this little basket doesn't seem like a lot, and again, I got this 50% off. It doesn't seem like a lot, but it is such a beautiful shaped basket, and I thought this would be the cutest basket to put at my entry into my home to catch keys or sunglasses. So I'm going to take some painter's tape and I'm going to go up against the bottom of the basket on the inside of that basket, and then on the outside I'm going to create a border because I wanted to update it with this beautiful green color. So I just took a couple of coats of spray paint on it, made sure that certain parts were still allowed to see the original basket, and it really just transformed it. You could do whatever color you want, but I just wanted to show that a simple basket like this even has so much potential. So don't ever skip these. If you think you love the shape, paint it. You will be amazed how much it will transform the item. And the finished look made me so happy. And now it can catch my keys and my sunglasses when I walk in the door to keep my entryway organized in a beautiful way. I saw this darling bucket and I wanted to turn it into a pumpkin. I thought the shape of it was just so cute and friendly. So what I did, I took the handle off, I popped off the nails that were in it, took it outside and spray painted it this great orange color. I'm going to link my spray paints down below so you can find them in your local home improvement stores. But I loved this color. I felt like it was the perfect orange. Now I'm going to glue on this little branch at the top, and I'm going to decorate it with a couple of leaves. Nothing too crazy, but you really could just embellish this as much as you would like. I like more of a simplistic look on a lot of my DIYs, but I do want to have a little personality. So I'm going to put in a little sprig of boxwood, tuck that in there, and then a bow. You never could go wrong with a bow. I put bows on a lot of things just because I think that they're just so cute, and they really just, I don't know, I think they're really pretty when you add on a bow, especially if it has a cute bow like this where it's got this beautiful stripe. Now I'm letting the tails be really long, and I'm doing a dovetail snip at the bottom where I pinch it in half and cut up at a triangle. And the transformation is so simple and just such an impact on a table. Up next, I'm going to share how I made this pedestal, and it's a two-part craft. So this is the first one, and this is the second. A beautiful pumpkin centerpiece that you can put on any table that looks so expensive, and people would never believe that you made it yourself for just a couple dollars. I'm going to take this hanging sign from the Dollar Tree and then this stair rail, and we're going to bring them together to create a beautiful stand that you can put a candle on, flowers, whatever you want. We're going to start by taking off the beaded handle and removing those staples, and then we're going to cut down our stair rail to the size and height that we would want. And then I'm going to put that off to the side because now we're going to work on this frame. Go ahead and pop out that frame backing, and we're going to trace it twice on a piece of paper. I'm going to use this old script paper. I thought this was pretty. And then I'm going to add on some Mod Podge, and I'm going to just glue that on. Now, I did not put the Mod Podge on the top of the paper because I didn't feel like it needed to be sealed since nothing wet will ever be on here. So I went ahead and just made sure that was a nice thick, not too thick because that will cause your paper to wrinkle and buckle, but just enough to be able to adhere it down on there. And then once that was dry, I went ahead and popped it back into the frame. And now I'm going to get a wood round. I'm sorry I forgot to mention that at the beginning of all these supplies, but I got a wood round as well from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to just fill those holes where the original hole was drilled, and I'm going to use my countersink drill bit to make sure that we don't have a screw that scratches our table ever. And then I'm going to drill through that, and this is going to allow none of the wood to splinter or crack whenever you go and drill a screw through it. So now at this point I'm going to start to add in my screw. And friends, don't be intimidated by power tools. I promise drills are so fun to work with. It is amazing what you can do with making home DIYs when you use a drill. I accomplished so many fun projects with just using a drill. If I could convince you to do anything, I would say pick up a drill. You would have so much fun creating things with it. Now you can see here that I've fastened on the bottom, fastened on the top, and we've got ourselves a darling stand. Now at this point you can decide what color you want to paint the base, or you could just leave it wood and leave it raw. It's totally up to you, however you want to customize it. That's the best part about DIYing your own home decor, because you get to customize it however you would like. So once I painted mine a really beautiful dark gray color, I sanded it, and now we're going to move on to the next thing onto this pumpkin. Since last fall, it cracked when it fell once, and this is from the Dollar Tree, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to just hold on to it because I'm sure I'll probably use it next season when it comes around again. And here we are where I'm finally able to use it. Now I decided it being cracked in half was actually kind of perfect because I'm just going to take my scissors and cut off the top, and then I'm going to bring it back together. But before I do that, with some E6000 and some hot glue, I'm going to go ahead and pop in a piece of foam so that we can turn this into a beautiful planter. So I'm going to go ahead and use that E6000 and the hot glue, bring it together, hold it in place so everything can dry and really lock in. And now I'm going to come in and neutralize this color. Orange is actually my favorite color, but this color is not what I'm going for this project. So I'm going to lighten it up so it has kind of a concrete, more neutral look to it. And now I'm going to bring in some moss at the very top and start to add in all of my florals. I want to have things kind of cascading over the side a little bit. I thought that would be really pretty. So I'm coming in with a buttery carnation. It's almost like a peachy butter, some white sunflowers, some eucalyptus, and then a couple other little sprigs here and there that I just happen to have in my flower tower that I have in my craft room. If you don't know what I'm talking about, my flower tower, I'll link my video down below for my craft room tour where I show my flower tower. And then I'm going to add on a couple of these wired berry sprigs and we are done. This wood round and a dowel from a plunger, all from the DT. Now start by heating up that sticker on the wooden dowel and just peel it off simply and easily. Without the heat gun, these stickers are a nightmare to take off, and there will be a little bit of sticky residue, and I like to just sand it off, but you could use some Goo Gone on it. Then I went ahead and took some wood putty and filled the hole and grabbed my countersink drill bit to drill down into that wood round, so that way I can drill a hole and sink my screw down in there so it will sit nicely on a table without scratching a table. I also drilled a hole in the wood handle for the plunger stick, the dowel, so that way that the screw could be able to be threaded all the way through the wood round and the dowel without it causing anything to crack or splinter. Now I am a little comfortable when it comes to my drill, so if you do not feel comfortable holding things while you're screwing them, definitely mount them in your wood area that you have where you can do this. Mount it down and allow you to be able to drill things in properly. I, again, just feel really comfortable with my drill, so I wanted to make sure I made that very clear. Do not hold it like this if you do not feel comfortable. Then I'm going to simply take that hula skirt, and I love the hula skirt for this particular project, because we're going to just simply wrap it around the dowel and make sure you leave a spot where you can take some twine, and you're just going to wrap that around really tightly and then tie a simple bow. And you can use whatever ribbon you want for this, but I went with twine because I wanted to have a very natural look to it. I'm going for very earthy tones for this project. You could also stain or paint the wooden dowel whatever colors you want. And then I'm going to add a little dot of hot glue behind the bow loops so that it holds that bow in place. And now we're going to just give it a haircut. I'm going to be keeping and holding on to the rest of this because I'm actually going to use this raffia for another project. And then once I pushed that off to the side, I went ahead and came back up to the top of that hula skirt, and I'm going to cut off the excess where that twine was wrapped with the raffia to hold it all in place. And after that, it is the most darling witch broom you've ever seen for just $3. Wreaths are one of my favorite things to make because you can do this for such a more affordable price than paying these super expensive prices that stores charge for these. Now all of my supplies are from the Dollar Tree except for some fabric I'm going to pull in a minute and an extra greenery garland that I get from Hobby Lobby. I buy the really long garlands when they're on sale. You can see me right here zip tying it on. So I used the really whimsical wispy greenery from the Dollar Tree, and this part right here, the thicker leaf, that one is from the garland. I just zip tie them all on so it's nice and covered. And now I'm going to come in with these yellow sunflowers from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to continue to just fill them in. Wherever I find any openings, any holes that I don't want to see, I'm going to take those leaves that were also on the same stem, the pick for the flower, and I'm just going to glue those into all those spots. Now I'm taking this beautiful striped fabric. I actually found it on a trash day. Somebody was getting rid of this huge, gigantic bolt roll of fabric. I could not believe it. I think the person was just not knowing what to do with it anymore and they wanted to get rid of it. I was so excited. I picked it up. It probably has about 20 yards on the roll. I felt so lucky to snag it on that day. So now I'm just putting the tails on first, and then to strengthen the loops of the bow, this is how I work with fabric. First I double up the fabric, and then I'm going to fold it in half one more time, glue it at the end, and then create a zigzag and add some hot glue. fluff up the bow and put a little clamp to hold it down. So I'm going to do it one more time. Put some glue at the end, zigzag it at the bottom where it's got a pleat, add in that glue to hold it in place, and then clamp it down. And you can see here that it really does make the most beautiful loop, and you would never know that this was done with fabric. Now I'm going to come in and I'm going to just glue on those loops where I want them to be. And I just have so much fun doing this part because I love a big loopy bow on my wreaths, and I'm using fabric. It's just such a fun possibility to work with fabric and creating a beautiful bow for your wreaths. So I hope you give this tip a try. This project only cost me $2, and I wouldn't even say it was that because this was scrap fabric that I had from a previous project. So we are going to take some paint, whatever color you want. I'm going to go with this deep burnt orange color, and we are going to not necessarily dry brush, but it's the same technique, is where you are working the paint by rubbing your paintbrush into the fabric, and it will start to pick up all of that color into the fabric. Now the more you do it, the stronger the color gets, but I wanted mine to look old and rustic for the fall. So I'm now, once it's all dry, going to come back in with my jumbo permanent marker from the DT, and I'm going to draw on a face of a little pumpkin that's just so happy. And then once it's all done being drawn on, I'm going to take my hot glue, and you could sew this. I'm a big fan of sewing. I know some of you on here don't know how to sew, so I wanted to show that hot gluing is definitely an option, but make sure when you hot glue that you massage the glue into the fabric, and I would definitely recommend protecting your finger on this part because the hot glue can come through the fabric since it's got such a meshy feel to it. It can come through and burn you. Once the hot glue is all dried and everything is locked into place, you can go ahead and take your little gunny sack pumpkin and you can flip it around. This turned into the easiest project, and it is just so darling, and you can make these in any size that you want with any scrap fabric you have. I decided on the smaller one not to do a face on it, so I have one with a face and one without, and now we're just going to simply stuff them, and we are going to just use some batting. I actually buy this particular batting at the end of every single Christmas season when they're getting rid of all of their fake snow, and I get a deal of a deal. That's how I always end up picking up this for so cheap. I think I bought a giant bag for like $1.50, $2, which batting normally can be very expensive. Then I'm going to take some twine from the DT, and I'm going to bundle it up at the top, and then I'm going to take that twine and I'm just going to wrap it around nice and tight, but not too tight because we're going to be putting a little stick down in there. But before I do that, I decided I wanted to add on a nice double knot to keep it in place. And then I also wanted to make a thicker bow. So how I do is I take my 4 fingers and I wrap the twine around about 5 or 6 times so it's nice and thick. I tie a knot so it keeps them all in place. And then with some hot glue, I just go ahead and glue that right on where I had the other knot, and it really just makes it look so high-end with this thick, beautiful bow on here. Now I go ahead and I hot glue my twig down in there that I found in my garden, trim down the top just a little bit so I can see the twig. I don't want it to be covering too much of that. And then the last is just to add on a leaf that I had in a scrap pile of a bunch of past florals that I used from picks. This DIY is going to be using this little hat from the Dollar Tree. It's a witch's hat, and it's the most adorable size. I love that it's not too big and not too small. We're going to start by removing all of the tinsel off of this hat. Once you've removed everything, you're going to notice there's all these little bumpies that are all over it, and we're going to just snip those off. I would recommend using some pliers that can cut them off, some wire cutter pliers that will be able to cut them really easily without having any issues. Once you get it as smooth as you can, we're going to start with a base fabric. I'm going to be using this felt from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to hot glue it all over the hat, making sure that we have our first layer on it. This is very quick. You're just basically wrapping it and cutting off any extra that you don't want, that isn't matching the shape, and then gluing down the things that need to be glued down. So you can see here that I have some extra at the bottom, and I'm just going to take my scissors, snip away the extra so that way we have a clean line around the cone. Now we're going to go ahead and take some white burlap, and I'm going to just simply wrap it around the same exact process. And you can see why having that bottom felt piece underneath was really important, because it's going to allow it to look white underneath versus being able to see all of those lines that were originally on the form. Then I took some more of that felt. I cut out a large circle, making sure it was large enough to be able to pull up around the brim of the hat. Glued that all into place, and now I'm coming in with a long strip of the burlap. I'm going to do a really cute ruffle on it. I'm just kind of zigging and zagging back and forth until I have gotten a beautiful ruffle coming off the brim of the hat. And I'm going to do 2 layers of this ruffle because I just think it looks so full and beautiful. Now this is really easy to do. I'm not even pleating, I'm just kind of gathering and kind of bunching it up onto the hot glue. And I'm using these finger protectors that they have at the Dollar Tree. Whenever I work with burlap, I do use these because the hot glue can seep through the holes of the burlap. Then at the end, you're going to cut off the extra, fold that last of it underneath, and then tuck it and glue it into place. Now we're going to create this part around the base of the hat, and we are going to wrap it around, and it's going to be a little bit loose, and that's okay because we want to have a little bit of a ruffle effect on that as well. So you can see here I cut off the extra, and I tucked the extra piece underneath this flap that's coming around the whole thing, and I'm just going to glue that right down into place, and that creates the cutest little finish on the side of the hat. I love how that turned out. Now we're going to take the yarn that I picked up from the Dollar Tree as well, and I'm going to just start to spin it around the middle of that fabric, and I'm going to just keep playing with it, gluing it in little spots here and there to hold it into place. And then once that's tied and glued down, I can start embellishing. I'm going to put on some different buttons that are peachy colors and orange with white stars, and then a darling little spider that's black on it. I think this project turned out so adorable, and I hope you will give it a try. I came across this beautiful metal urn at my thrift store, and I knew that I could give it a fresh new look. Now I happen to be using a really pretty green color in my home, and funny enough, it has this green that I'm actually wanting to get the look of more on this particular item. I took it outside and I spray painted it 2 coats, making sure that there were no drips and it was a nice even coat all over it. Now I'm going to just simply put a piece of foam inside, and it gives this beautiful metal decor piece a brand new look, and it is so pretty with these fall picks from the Dollar Tree. I'm just going to put a few of them in there and style it on my piano. I love the transformation, and it just looks so high end. Thank you so much for stopping in and visiting with me here in my craft room today. And until the next episode, bye friends.